So welcome to Manager Approver Tips and Tricks. You guys have been using the system for about 3 weeks or so now. And what we've done is taken some of the common questions or concerns or issues that you have been having, and we've tried to address them here. This will also give you the opportunity to ask any questions you might have. So you have two ways to ask questions. You can type in the chat, and I see a lot of you have already done so that's wonderful. Also, throughout the presentation, I'll unmute the phones, and you can ask questions live. There is a chance. We had some questions earlier today. We had another webcast for timekeepers. So we may have a couple of questions where we may have to go back and get some research for you and get back to you. But we will get them answered. Okay. So over the course of the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to talk through what is the difference between a timekeeper versus a time approver. We'll talk through the reports to structure because that's very important to understand, so you understand who's in your chain of command, who you can enter time for, who you can approve time for. We'll walk through a couple of entering time for employees because as time approvers, you have access to enter and approve time for employees. We'll walk through just very quickly approving time, although I am guessing, since I know most people it was actually a very good success rate. People were paid. You guys have probably already gone through how to approve time. And then finally, we'll just talk through delegation again. So there is a little bit of confusion out there about what a timekeeper does and what a time approver does. So you guys are all time approvers. Some of you may have credentials to be a timekeeper as well. And as a rule of thumb, I tell people, if you are entering time for the same people that you are approving time for, you want to use your employee ID. You want to log in using that numeric employee ID. Because as a time approver, it's actually more efficient just to use your employee ID to enter and approve time. So a timekeeper, when we talk about who is a timekeeper, what kind of roles and responsibilities do they have, a timekeeper is someone who has an alphanumeric login, so it starts with MBT, and all they're doing is entering time in the system. They're not approving time. They're just doing the data entry, and it's up to the time approver to approve that time. So you guys as time approvers, you have the ability to view time, to enter time, edit time, and also approve time. So your employee ID actually gives you a lot more access, and you're able to do a lot more with your approver ID than you are if you also have a timekeeper ID. So you'll be able, as an approver, you're able to approve employees and kind of your chain of command. And you can also, if you're going to be out of the office or maybe on, work site and won't have internet access, you can also delegate your time approver responsibilities, and timekeepers cannot do that. So for you guys, and everything we're going to talk about over the course of the next half an hour or so is we're talking about logging in using your employee ID. So the second thing we wanted to talk about is the reports to structure. We know there was a lot of work done to make sure that we got the reports to structure correct, because the reports to structure, reports to is actually a term, it's a field in HRCMS. And what that does behind the scenes is it sets up kind of the hierarchy of who can approve whose time, and kind of like the organizational structure of your organization. That's the best way to think about it. So some things to know about reports to. Employees can only report to one supervisor. So it should be the person who the employee directly reports to and who is primarily responsible for signing off on their time. Now, I know that at the T, you guys have a lot of people who work maybe out of title, or they work in a different area covering or work overtime. Those hours are still going to be on that that reports to timesheet. If the direct supervisor is unable to approve, the supervisor's manager can actually approve the time. And a supervisor who has more than one level below them, and we're going to look at a chart in a second that I think will make this a little clearer. So a supervisor is more than one level below them will see time for the employees who directly report to them, and also their direct reports. So if you have, and I know this did happen when you logged in on day one and you went to look at your list of employees, you may have either had people on there who didn't report to you, or you may have had people who were missing. So this is all done through the reports too. So in the event that this happens, I'm hoping most of it's been cleared up now, but if not, you can always send an email to payroll@mbta.com, and they'll be able to make that change for you. Just an FYI that any reporting updates must have a Sunday effective date. So remember, we report time Sunday through Saturday. So they're able to go in and make that change, but it's only going to be effective kind of in the next Sunday. So now that I've completely confused you, this graph, this chart is really nice. It kind of shows what people can see. So at the very top, we have employee 1. He or she is a manager and has 2 direct reports, employee 2 and employee 3. And then employee 2 has 2 people who report to them, and employee 3 only has 1. So what's nice is the manager, employee number 1, can see the timesheets for all of those folks. Employee 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They can also enter and approve time for those folks if they need to. Now, if you were employee number 2, you would only be able to view and edit and enter employee 4 and employee 5. And if you were employee 3, you would only have 1 employee, employee 6. So if you kind of follow the organization chart, that's kind of the best way to think about it. So for you guys as approvers, your manager actually has access to look at your employee's time and also enter and approve time if needed. Okay, I threw a lot at you, so I'm going to unmute the phones.
All guests have been unmuted.
Any questions out there? Okay, so a lot of background noise. I'm going to put you guys on mute.
All guests have been muted.
Okay. There's a lot of background noise on there, so if you guys do have questions, maybe I'll try it one more time in a few minutes. But if you do have questions on anything, please type them in the chat. I can see them right away, and we can address them. So the takeaway message from here really is that your supervisor has access to view your direct reports, and if you have someone below you, you can then go in and look at that. So Margie, you asked, how do I view employees 1 level down? So if you were employee number 1, the manager, and I'll show you where this is. Actually, on your Time and Labor WorkCenter, you can click on, there's a little drop down. Your time reporter group is actually going to populate right there. But if you wanted to see your direct reports, you could click on that and it would bring up their time reporter group number. And then you'd be able to see it. So I'll point that out when we get to that slide, and then you'd be able to see those folks. Okay. Good question. All right, we'll move right along. So I just wanted to review some of the data points that are on the timesheet. So the MBTA uses a lot of different data points on their timesheets. So in addition to kind of the punch in and out times, we also have some other fields that you guys use. So what this shows is it's going to show the field name in HRCMS, how the MBTA uses it, kind of your lingo, what you guys call it, and then also the kind of access that you have, or the kind of the best way to look for your codes. So the first one is combination codes. You guys call that a function code. So what's great about the combination code is that what's loaded in the system, you only see the MBTA codes. So there's still a lot of those. I think there's over 2,000 right now. But you know how those are coded and how they're made up. So you only have access to the MBTA codes. Now your user fields are a little bit different. User field 1, you guys use it to define your work area, so if someone is working in a different work area. And all of those begin with T. So if you want to search, the best way to do that is to click on the little drop down and type in the letter T, and it's only going to show you the T-related user fields. User field 2 is a little bit different. That's the overtime reason code, and those begin with MBT. And then finally, user field 3, that's out of title pay, and those all begin with T as well. So that's kind of just a little tip for how to search for those different user fields. Now remember, the user fields, everyone in the you have access to everyone's in the Commonwealth. And it's the same. People have access to yours as well. That's why we focus a lot on making sure we have people trained about how to use them so that we know that you're using the correct one. The good news is with the user fields, there's no dollars tied to them. They're just data points just for tracking purposes. So there's no behind-the-scenes accounting associated with the user fields. Okay. So I'm guessing that by now you guys are very familiar with the Time and Labor WorkCenter, but if not, I thought I would talk through it. So your Time and Labor WorkCenter is right on your My Team tab under your manager links. It's the very first link. It's the Time and Labor WorkCenter. And you can go to the Time and Labor WorkCenter to do all of the things you need to do for your employees. You can go there to approve time. You can go there to enter time, edit time, check their leave balances. You're all going to do all of those things through the Time and Labor WorkCenter. So when you first click on the Time and Labor WorkCenter, it's going to default to this view, which is the Pending Reported Time view. Some of you may have seen this. These will bring up just the employees who have entered time for. And you always have to click that Get Employees button is very important. Let me just put my cursor on here. So the Get Employees, you click the Get Employees to populate that. So like I said, pending reported time brings up employees who have reported time only. So if you have 30 people who report to you, but only 2 people there's been time entered for, either through a timekeeper or through yourself, you would only see the ones who have entered time and who's waiting for your approval. Now there is a question about how do you see one level down. It's kind of a good screenshot to do this. On this grid, you'll see the time reporter group here, and that's auto-populated for you. You may not have even noticed that it's been there, but your time reporter group number is populated. So if you click on the little magnifying glass there, it will give you a list of who else you can look at. So it actually show their name. The example I always use is there's a number. So in this case, it would be 01126 underscore and then the person's name. So if we had, let's see, Margie Lackner, it would say 112 underscore Margie Lackner. So you'd be able to see the person's name, click on it, come back to the screen, click Get Employees, and then that's how you'd be able to view those employees. So some people like using the time pending reported time. Now, if you as a time approver are also doing a lot of data entry and you're entering time for your employees, I would suggest that you go to the timesheet view. The timesheet view is going to bring up a list of all of your direct reports, regardless whether they have entered time. So you can actually go through an alpha list of all of your employees. And so you can go through your list of employees and enter time and kind of scroll back and forth to enter time. So you click on timesheet. You're always going to click that Get Employees button, and then it's going to bring up that list. So you just want to click on the last name of one of those employees, and it's going to bring up a timesheet. By now, you probably are very familiar with the timesheet. We're just going to walk through a couple of things for you guys to just reminders. So on the timesheet, if time has already been entered for the employee, you'll see a schedule populated and a needs approval there. And that means it's waiting for you, the time approver, to go in and approve it. If you are entering time for the employee or you notice there's a mistake, say you go to approve something and you notice there's a mistake, you as the time approver can go in and correct it. You have the power. You can edit time, you can put in combo codes, you can enter user fields. Whatever needs to be done on the timesheet, you as the time approver can do. So I'm actually going to unmute it now. We'll see how the background noise is. I may have to put you guys back on mute. Tom, you asked, where can I see how many sick protected time each employee has remaining? That is, we actually had a question earlier today about that. We will take that down and bring it back. This sick protected is I think something that we're working on right now. So I don't want to say too much and give you a wrong answer. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute your phones.
All guests have been unmuted. All guests have been muted.
There's a lot of background noise still. Sounds like somebody's in a tunnel maybe. So please just type your questions in the chat for now. Okay, so there are a couple of scenarios that we wanted to talk through. The first is entering overtime. If you have to enter time for an employee, this is, I know, very common with you guys. You have a lot of overtime. If the employee is working overtime in their home area, all you have to do is change their out punch. So in this scenario, you'll notice on Monday, the employee worked from 9 in the morning until 7:30 at night. The system will know, based on their schedule and some other data points behind the scenes, that those hours are overtime, and will automatically calculate it on the paycheck. So if it's in their home area, all you have to do is enter the punch time, and the system will calculate that for you. Now, we know that's a perfect scenario, and we do not live in a perfect world. So, and lots of folks work they work outside of their normal job. Maybe they worked all day on, on one thing, and then at the afternoon or in the evening they go over to another area and work to cover someone's shift. So, in that case, what you can do is you want to add a row. And to do that, and we'll see that in just a few minutes, you scroll all the way over to the right and click the little plus sign. And that will add a row on the day, and you're just going to add it. You can see here that this employee worked Monday from 9 to 5:30 in their normal job. And then they went somewhere else. So you can see here it's designated by that. It's not the second, but whatever is less than a second here. It's designated here. So we have a 5:30 punch and a 5:30.01 punch, right? And what that will do is tell because you can't have two punches at the same time, which is why we do that. So you just have to make it a little bit different. And we can tell that they have worked outside because we see the combo code, and we also see user field 1 is populated. So all you have to do is enter the in and out punch for that. It will know that it's overtime. And then code it correctly. You put your function code in, your combo code, and your user field 1 through 3, anything that's applicable. So entering leave for a full day, if you have to enter maybe an employee called in sick or they're on a scheduled vacation day and you're entering time for them, there are really two ways to do it. The first is just to go in and, click right into the in time and hit delete that time. The other thing you can do is scroll all the way over to the right and hit the minus sign and delete the row that way. It's really a personal preference. There's no, right or wrong way to do it. So you want to delete the in and out punches. And then where you're going to you want to put in the TRC that they're using. So this particular employee is using sick leave or SLP. You can click on that little, if you don't know the code, you can click on that little magnifying glass and it'll bring up a list. And anytime you're using leave codes, you also want to make sure that your quantity is populated. So here we can see the employee is taking 8 hours of sick leave. Okay. William, you asked, is your PowerPoint slide deck going to be available after, whoops, my question jumped away, after the webinar? Yes. The PowerPoint will be available, and we're also actually recording this. So once my technical team is done kind of scrubbing it and making it look a little bit better, it'll actually be posted on YouTube and linked from your intranet site. So you can listen to my voice thrown on about time and attendance any time you'd like. So, Tom, you had a good question. If the employee punch-out time is changed to show 2 hours OT, does the system know to enter that as OT, premium, or double time? So, it would depend. If it's overtime premium, the system would be able to calculate that. If you have to enter double time, that is a manual entry. And the code for that would be OTD? Is that what it is, Vanessa? Okay, OTD. So it would depend upon the scenario. Not quite coded yet for double time. I don't know if that's in the pipeline down the same. Nikki, you asked, would delay time be the same? Is delay time, is that a code they use? I'm going to unmute your phones and just see how the background noise, maybe that person's out of that tunnel now.
All guests have been unmuted. All guests have been muted.
Okay. So delay time, I'm not quite entirely sure what delay time is. I'm seeing that Human's writing this question down furiously right now. So, Nikki, we will get you an answer. If it is just a separate code, maybe they had 15 minutes of delay time, you would just enter another row. But Human will find the answer and get back to you. Her name is Nikki Ortiz. Okay. Keep those questions coming. Okay, so this is a full day of leave time. But we know that people leave early, come in late. So in order to do that, we're talking about, entering kind of a partial day of leave time. So here we have that screenshot that just shows how to add the plus and minus buttons on the right side. You guys probably know what they are, but I just wanted to make sure that we showed you what those are, so you know. So we have an employee who's leaving early. They're going to take some personal time in the afternoon. So we need to add another row to that day. So we click on the plus sign. It's going to add a row for us. And what you're going to do here, you can see on Thursday, they left early. They left in this kind of small on my screen. I'm hoping it's bigger on yours. They left a few hours early, so they left at, I think, 2:30. So you're going to change their out punch to 2:30. And then on that second line, you're going to enter the time reporter code. So in this case, it's personal time. And then the number of hours of personal time that they entered. And then what you're going to do is click the submit button, and from there you can actually approve it. But first time, anytime you're making a change or you're entering time on behalf of an employee, you have to submit it first, and then it will give you the option to approve it. So if you need to, enter shift differential, on the timesheet, and we know that you guys have a lot of folks who work shift differential, or if you have somebody covering for a shift, you actually enter that manually. They are working on getting this automated within the system, but right now it doesn't quite work the way that we want it to. So that is just a manual entry. And there are really two ways to enter shift differential. If you have somebody who works 5 days a week and gets shift every single day, you can just make one entry on the timesheet. You don't need to put one row on every day. So you can add a row on the day that it was earned. You're going to put in SAM. That's a nice, easy TRC code to remember. And then you put the dollar amount. So SAM codes or shift differential codes are actually in dollars, not hours. That's a little different than pretty much all of the other TRCs or time reporter codes that you guys use. A couple of just miscellaneous tips. The first thing is just a data entry tip for those of you who are going to be doing a lot of data entry on the timesheet. This will save you a couple of clicks, and those clicks and tapping on the keyboard, keystrokes certainly do add up. So instead of typing out 9:00 a.m., you can just type in 9A, and the system will know that means 9 a.m. And when you submit it, the system will actually convert it. So you'll see that 9:00 a.m. on the timesheet. So as you're keying all this stuff in, that's a nice shortcut for you, so that saves you, those keystrokes do add up after a while. And the other thing is there is a system rule for guaranteed hours. So if someone is set up in the correct schedule and, they always get a guaranteed hour, you shouldn't need to enter it. But if you do, the TRC code for that is called Reg B. So you would enter Reg B on the timesheet under TRC and then put in the number of hours. So 1 hour per day or, 5 hours over the course of the week. So just also wanted to talk very briefly about approving time. If you are entering time on behalf of an employee using your employee ID, which you should be because you are all approvers, you actually have to submit the time first and then approve it. So it's two separate actions, but you do it in the same screen. So once the time has been submitted, it'll go to something called a needs approval phase, and that means it's waiting for you, the time approver, to go in and approve it. So two ways: you can click on all these little boxes over here and click approve, or you can click select all and then click approve, which saves a couple of clicks for you. If you're questioning anything at all in the timesheet, I always tell people to go ahead and, if anything that is correct, should be approved right away. Because that is what's, remember, your approval is what's going to entering the time and then approving the time will move that along in the cycle to create a paycheck. Okay. And you'll get this, approved time cannot be unapproved, but it can be changed, which is good. So if you go ahead and approve time and then you realize, oh, geez, I made a mistake, or that looks funny to me, you can always go back and make a change, submit the change, and then it will go back to that needs approval status. But if everything looks good to you, you click yes. And when you go back to the timesheet, you'll notice that that reported status has changed from needs approval to approved. So in order for everybody to get paid, you need to make sure that you have the timesheets that are all in the approved status. Okay, I'm going to try the phone one more time.
All guests have been unmuted. All guests have been unmuted.
Okay.
All guests have been muted.
All right, someone's ready.
All guests have been muted.
So we will continue just typing your questions in if you have them. Okay. So another feature of the system is delegations. You can delegate your time approval responsibilities to someone else if you need to. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what's nice is, you're going on vacation or maybe you're going to be out of the office on medical leave or for whatever reason, you can delegate your time approval responsibility to somebody else. Delegations are date-driven, and we generally, as a rule of thumb, they should not exceed 6 months at a time. If someone is delegating their time over 6 months, that's, we can make a reports to change on the back end and fix that reporting structure. We do query this information, so hopefully we did have one gentleman who had delegated his time approval responsibilities out to 2040. So we will be reaching out to your payroll director if we do find any kind of wonky delegations out there. So what's nice is the system is interactive. As soon as you initiate a delegation, it will email the person you are hoping to delegate to, and it is up to them. They either accept or reject it. So delegations generally take effect in real time. And once you have delegated your transactions, the original approver can no longer approve their employees' time. So if you thought you were going on vacation and you forget, and then for some reason you don't, maybe there's a giant snowstorm and you can't leave Logan, which has happened, you come back to the office, you can always revoke your delegation. And revoking, I think, is just about 2 clicks. And over here you can see a little screenshot here. So if you know you're going on vacation next week, or we're heading into summer, so there's going to be a lot of people hopefully using their vacation time and enjoying the beautiful New England weather. You can click on Manage Delegation. It's going to take you here. It's going to ask you to enter a date range of when you'd like your, the time approval to be done. And then you also select a delegated approver. So you select the person you want to delegate time responsibilities to. And then as soon as you hit next, it'll save, and it will actually generate an email for you to that person. And they'll log in and be able to either accept or reject that delegation. Okay, well, I'm going to open it up for some questions. I'm not going to unmute the phones because there's a lot of background noise. I'm not sure I'd be able to understand anyone's questions. But if you do have questions, please, it's a couple of things. You can type them right in the chat. The other thing you can do is you can reach out to MBTA Payroll. They can be reached at 617-222-6045 or payroll@mbta.com. We do have a couple of questions that Hewan wrote down. He'll be working with the team to make sure that we get you some answers. And Nikki, I see you have another question. Will outstanding vacation time be added and accurate? I sure hope so. We will take that back and find out when they plan to update the vacation accruals in the system. However, if you are nearing, and this goes for everyone, if you or any of your employees are kind of nearing, you are entitled to more, and if you're afraid you're gonna run out, you should be able to reach out to payroll, and hopefully they can do something to cover you for that duration. Okay. Let me see. Patricia, you said, I had a manager delegate to me, but because I'm not on the same grade level, I am unable to approve. This is how it was explained to me. Okay. They're not on the same level. Okay. Patricia, let me take that back because I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. And there may be a workaround for that. But we'll take that question back and get you an answer. Okay. Any other questions out there? All right. I'm going to, actually, I'll end the recording.